the remastered session. But so feel free to install all of your equipment if you want it on the table. If you need anything, just point it out to us. Okay. All right.
From here? Yes, good. Okay.
All right. So I think it's fine if she's seated. Yes, we are a small house, so let's just go on. Good morning, ETA, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. And honorable members of the Fourth Estate, good morning. To all of the EJS management and staff, good morning. There is an African proverb that says, until the lion learns to tell his story, the tail of the hunt will always favor the hunter. And I think often about that in the context of women's leadership in our country and on this African continent. Because for too long, the stories of leadership, who leads, who decides, who shapes our countries, has not fully reflected the voices of women. Not because we're absent, but because we are not always seen, heard, or recognized as leaders in our own right. And that is why your role as the media is so important. Because you shape how leadership is understood in this country, you shape the narratives, and you give voice to women leaders. It is also why the work of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center for Women and Development is so important. The center was founded right here in Liberia by our own mother, former President, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And at its core is a very clear intention that her story should not remain the exception, that being Africa's first democratically elected woman president should not be a one-time breakthrough. It should be a pathway for many more women in Liberia and across Africa to lead at the highest level. 20 years later, the second democratically elected president was named on the continent, President Itongo from Namibia. But because it took 20 years, we know that there is still so much work to be done. At the center, we focus on building what it takes for women to lead and to lead effectively. Through the Amuje Initiative, our flagship program, we invest in women leaders, providing leadership development, strategic networks, visibility, and access to opportunities to enable them to ascend to the highest levels of leadership across Africa, including right here in Liberia. Women, including our very own Minister of Youth and Sports, Cornelia Kwa, Councillors Orion Yakula and Charlene Bromskin, Ms. Tilia Yuri, our Press Secretary Kula Fofana, and Ms. Sonia Seze are all women Amuje leaders out of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Center who are being mentored directly by former President herself and many more, because she is intentional about building a generation of African women leaders. And that is really the point of our work. We are not only asking whether women are present in leadership, we are asking, are women influencing decisions? Are they shaping policy? Are they delivering results? Because representation, having women leaders in the room is just the starting point. We need to have more power so that we can truly advocate and address issues affecting girls and women in our country. And let's be very clear, the work is not abstract. It is grounded in research, evidence, and statistics. Through our data hub, which is available on our EJS website, we track women's representation across all 54 countries. And the reality is, Statistics from our data have shown that Liberia, for example, women make up only 11% of the House of Representatives, 10% of the Senate. There are still gender gaps to be addressed. So when we talk about women's leadership, we are not just speaking in general. We are responding to very real numbers, very real gaps. And that is why advancing more women leaders, creating enabling environments for them to thrive in order to close the gender gap in public leadership is truly a vision of the center. And to sustain this vision, we are building Musija, the African Women's House. It is being built right here in Liberia, and it will be the physical campus of our organization. It will stand as a home of leadership, a space for learning, and a place where African women come together to shape the future of our continent. It will also be the first presidential center built by a woman president in the world. So we are truly proud to be at this juncture, at this time in Liberia, at the EJS Center. We know that Liberia already has a strong legacy of women's leadership. We have been many firsts, but legacy alone is not enough. The work started by pioneers such as our founder, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, must continue. How do we ensure that more Liberian women rise to positions of power, heading key ministries, institutions, chairing portfolios, and influencing policies, and taking the highest seats? By supporting women leaders, by shifting narratives, and by reclaiming the story. And today, Women's Leadership Council is a big part of that effort. Today, for the first time, we are bringing together women from across sectors to identify priorities and contribute to shaping the next phase of action on issues affecting the women in Liberia. And let me say this very clearly. The media is not on the sidelines of our work. You shape the visibility, the credibility, and you shape what the public believes is possible. So your role in supporting women's leadership, achieving Gap Zero, is critical. This work is not about celebrating one woman's achievements. It is about building a future where women's leadership is no longer an exception, but the expectation. And we begin that work now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edie.
So we live in at the Boulevard.
Thank you so much, Edie, for those remarks. And dear friends of the media, I believe that you heard clearly from our Edie's welcome and remarks that you are very central to the work that the EJS Center is doing in Monrovia, in Liberia, and across the African continent. The Edie, you all know that we have a very big event happening immediately after this. So unfortunately, she doesn't have enough time to stay with us because she has to prepare for that. But rest assured, like I said, you've seen her, now you know the face to the leadership of the EJS Center. If you would like to interview her, if you would like to know more about the center's work, the vision for Liberia, please feel free to just write me via the email I sent or reach out to us at the center, at our office here, and we would be happy to arrange that for you. So please, you would have to excuse the lady so she goes prepared for this event. If at one point you don't see her, know that she's coming back for something big later on. Thank you so much, Edie, for your time and availability. Okay, the Edie is still here for a few minutes. Maybe I'll put her a little bit more to work. Let's take advantage of that. I wanted the Edie to share a little bit more about the African Women's House, what this represents. We are building the first presidential center by a woman president in the world, not only in Africa. We are building that presidential center, and I think that as the executive director of the AJS Center, I want her to share a little bit more about what that represents for Liberia, because that will be housed in Liberia, and it's a big thing. Women leaders from all over the world, not just Africa, will come over here to talk about women's leadership. Edie, what does that represent?
Thank you for the question. So, we try to be a bit bashful, but it is a very big deal. It is, okay, gentlemen, please. We need to understand how important that is for the continent and for Liberia, but most importantly for the women of Liberia. It shows continuity in leadership. It shows intentionality in supporting women leaders. I will give you a very simple example. We need convening spaces of our own. We tend to convene in Europe, in the US, in many other places. But the reality of the global world now, many of us can't get visas to all of those various places that we want to go to convene. Africa needs to convene in Africa. So this is an ambitious project. One or two other women presidents have tried. It has not happened. So for us, this leadership team, which is also a leadership team, as you see, of 3 women, there's a few men on the leadership team, but by and large, our leadership team is women, want to deliver on the legacy of the former president. I've just said legacy is not enough, but it's a start. So we cannot stand here as women in Liberia with all that she has poured into us and not deliver on the vision of Usieja, a place where women can come, gather, breathe, spend time with each other in their own home. So that is what Usieja and the African Women's Center is all about. A bit about the campus itself, and we call it a campus because we're not building a skyscraper. We're actually building 9 buildings that look like the huts in many of the villages that we grew up in. And it is 9 buildings that tell a story. As you go from one building to the next, and each of them is a 1-story building. You go from one building to the next, you will see temporary exhibitions, you will see permanent exhibitions of Madam's work and the work of other women leaders. Our administrative offices are there. There's conference spaces, there's meeting spaces, there's a library, a presidential library where you will go and see books written by, we hope, almost every woman leader on the continent and in the world. It will be a repository of data and knowledge. And so we thank you for joining this story. We thank you for being a part, because you are a major part of helping to share this information with the people of Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Edie. I don't know if you want to talk about the construction works that are very, very soon starting. So this is not a project that, it's in the future, it's already right here. And the moment it kicks off, I hope that you all will be there to take that narrative, push it forward, and make sure that it is known not only in Liberia, but to the world, that the first presidential center by a woman leader, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, it is right here in Monrovia. You have that responsibility to share that information, as we have to put it out here to you, to push it out there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Edie, for the emphasis. All right, so let's still take advantage of the Edie before she goes and before we try to hear more from our COO and Director of Programs. She's right here. So let's say we would take, I know questions are, boiling in your minds. Let's take 1 or 2 so that Edie can at least, answer to that before she leaves. Is there any that is ready? Any questions for the Edie?
Thank you, Madam. My name is Trokan Rapo, and I work for OKFM as the Director of News. It's an extraordinary opportunity to be here to hear and hear your stories and the kind of work you're doing. It's my very first time, and I'm glad. I want to know a bit about the Monrovia program. How is the selection done, and what do you seek? What do you look for in the women you select?
Thank you for the question. So our Director of Programs is here, and she's actually going to be speaking about Amuje in detail in her remarks. So she'll answer that question.
Any other? Okay. Oh, sorry.
My name is Tina S. Benton. So one of the issues that keep coming up when it comes to women leadership in Liberia is the issue of access to funding. So in the Amuje programs or every other program that the EJS Center is operating, what do you do in terms of having women access funding?
That's a question that has come up in Liberia, on the continent, in the world. The center is a strategic resource for women in leadership. So we provide technical support, capacity development, but we also open the avenues for networking to connect you to some of the people that will provide access to funding. We are not a funding mechanism. We do not provide funding for women who are looking for leadership, political leadership. We are very clear on that mandate. We do not do that. But what we do is we provide the connections and the networks that you may not have on your own. You're standing on the strength of former presidents. You're standing with a cohort right now of 54 women from around the continent, 24. That network alone has expanded your possibilities, and that is what we try to do.
We'll take the two, and then, is there any other? Okay. And then that will be it. Thank you.
Also, thank you. I'm Michael Pai, and I work for Sky FM. My concern has to do with the issue of the mentorship program. There are many women out there who actually want to be part of this mentorship, but they don't know how to contact the leadership in terms of being part of it.
Are you focusing only on women that maybe probably feed you? If not, what are some of the requirements for women to be part of the leadership program?
Okay.
That again is an Amuje question. So our director of programs will answer that as well.
Okay. Sorry, we'll just take a last one.
Yeah.
Just the last one.
So, my name is Weah Jackson, and I work for school. So, who do you look for as Amuje? Is it those already?
Okay, that's family talk now.
Yeah, let me just-
Wait for the director of programs.
She's
No,
right
no
here.
Amuje question. Get it?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Amuje?
No, Amuje.
To the ED?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you. My name is Gibson G, and I write for the Liberia Investigator and report for Punch FM. I want to know, what about this Women Leadership Council? What is about the council?
You're using a clap for him actually, because that's why I'm here. So thank you for the question. So the Women's Leadership Council is an inaugural conversation that we want to start with the women of Liberia. We are bringing together women, mostly heads of institutions or senior, because we're talking decision making at this time. From business, multi-sectors, business, government, civil society, non-profit, to come and actually dialogue together on the women's agenda. What are we hearing from the women in Liberia? What did we hear from this last International Women's Month? What did we hear from the huge delegation that went to CSW, the Commission on the Status of Women? We want to come back and say the Liberian women are prepared to act. This meeting is a call to action because there's a lot of things that are happening globally, and if we don't start to address them now, we'll be back here again next year saying what happened. So as the EGS Center, if we are truly a women's center focused on women's leadership and development, charity starts at home. So we are here to bring the women of Liberia together to talk about the issues and then see how the center in the position that we are can help to move this agenda forward. So that is why we are here. That is the purpose of the Women's Leadership Council.
Thank you. That will be that for the questions to the ED, and I'm happy really uploading the question on the Women's Leadership Council. She has covered it. I think we all get it. We are going to, the Women's Leadership Council, sorry, let me just say this now, it's an invite-only event. You heard from the ED, it's very senior. So the coverage is actually very, very extremely limited, and I think this is the coverage we can get as of now from the ED's overview. If you need any other questions on it after the council, because it's closed, then the EJS Center is here to provide more details. So any other questions, please just keep them, send them to us. The ED will be available, and our leadership will be available to answer that. So I want, our COO is here, our Chief Operations Officer, Ms. Jonas Sirleaf, and a big part of the thing that we do at the center, I want her to speak briefly, we actually don't have a lot of time, on our archives and library work. It is a big part of what we do at the center, so I wanted her to say a word about that and how important it is to the EJS Center.
Thank you, Noella. So about 3 years ago, we signed a memorandum of agreement with Harvard University Library and Archives, and the goal there is to catalog and digitize former President Sirleaf's archival records. And this is so that for the future of researchers, of students, policymakers, to look at her life, both within the public sphere as former president, but also as the first Deputy Minister of Finance, Minister of Finance, and her long time working within international development, to study what some of her policies were, what the different avenues that she took to end up where she is. So we started that journey 3 years ago, and now we're getting closer to the process of digitizing those records. We've already started digitizing her personal records, and now in partnership with the National Archives, we will soon be starting the process for digitizing the presidential records, so the Liberian government records. And this is the first time in Liberia's history that we're working with both the Justice Ministry and the National Archives to create a government guide on how this process should be done. So it's very important for the center, but also for Liberian record keeping and Liberian history.
Thank you so much, Janelle. So you can have a little bit of an idea of the work that is going into it. It's a constant dynamic process. Like Janelle said, we have quite advanced. There's a lot of information on that, and I invite you to want to dig deeper into that. Janelle is here in Monrovia. Anytime you want to hear more about it, we have a whole library and archives team at the center. They would be available to share more if you wanted to know more about that. Now, it's just coming to our minds that it looks like there was a lot about Amuje that we didn't know. This shows that we really had to put this together. So our Director of Programs is right here, Madonna Kendona. She does the A to Z of Amuje. So I know that we can't take all of your questions. And let's say her presentation should be question and answer. Let's just go to that. You ask the questions, she answers. We can't take all of them, please. We are really limited. We already have some of our speakers and members for the Women's Leadership Council waiting. So let's just go straight to the point, but anytime she would answer your questions. So let's get straight. There are more questions. Okay, yes.
Yeah, so I'm interested in knowing how selection has been done. What do you look for in the people you've selected? And how do you track their work, and how do they pay back to the institution?